Hey everyone, hope you're having a great day. Today I want to talk to you about why you're having trouble closing your prospects, or actually recruiting them or leading them to the actual sale. So there's two main reasons that people have trouble closing, and you're probably violating one of these things if you're having trouble yourself, but that's okay. It's all a learning process. But let's talk about them. The first one is lack of rapport building up front. The second one is leading them through the process properly. So the first thing is building rapport up front. Now, when you're having a conversation with a prospect, the vast majority of your time should actually be building rapport with them, okay? Now, rapport doesn't necessarily mean talking forever about things that are not related to the sale. Although it can sometimes, depending on where you're at with the prospect. Rapport means getting on their level before you can move them to another level. So if it's a very cold prospect that is cold with you personally but has a good feeling about things so far, a really good thing to do is spend some time getting to know them. Okay, now depending on which ideology you follow and things like that, some people tell you to spend a lot of time, some people say to spend zero time. I would say spend a good amount of time getting to know that person, understanding what their desires are, what they want out of life and out of the business, and what they don't want out of life and out of the business. This rapport building phase is so important that just by getting this down, you could probably change your closing rate from as low as 1% to as high as 10 or 20% just by building rapport. When I first started in corporate sales, or just sales in general, back when I was 18 or 19, I clearly wasn't that good of a salesperson because I only had so much training and experience, but there's one thing I was good at, and that was building rapport with people. And if you don't know where to start with building rapport, there's really only one skill you need to know to get probably 70% of your rapport usefulness out of building rapport. There's one thing that you can do, that is listening. If you're a good listener, you can get people to like you really, really well just by listening to them. It's amazing. You could literally be one of the worst conversationalists outside of that, but if you can shut up and listen and ask good questions, they're gonna think that you're an awesome person. They're gonna like you. And in fact, they might even tell people that you're awesome to talk to. So one thing about building rapport is listening. I was talking to a guy not too long ago, a part of our team that I'm working very closely with, and he was having a bit of trouble closing some people. And so I said, why don't you record your calls, I'll review them, we'll talk about it. So he recorded them, we reviewed it, and he's pretty good at leading people through the process, but he wasn't that good at building rapport. And as a result, he had closed a pretty small percentage of people at that point. I was like, dude, we talked about that, right? Let's build rapport up front. And the number one thing that he can do without learning this whole rapport building thing, without reading 5,000 books on getting to know people and stuff like that, literally just listening will take care. It's like the Archimedes lever in rapport building, just listening. If people feel heard, they'll want to listen to what you have to say. They'll start to hear. People want to be understood before you can make them understand. So the best way you can make someone feel understood is by letting them talk. Now, if you have a really, really, really solid marketing funnel, you probably already know what your prospects are thinking by the time they get to a certain point. So you might not need to spend as much time listening, but if you do listen, that is like fuel all over that fire, okay? So remember, listening is your hack to build rapport quickly without learning all the ninja tricks of building rapport. So just listen to your people and ask good questions. If you don't know what to say, don't say anything and ask a question instead. And eventually people will lead themselves down their own path. You know, I had one of the best close rates in my corporate sales job. I'm referring to that right now. And the reason is because I was really good at asking questions, not because I knew the thing that well. I knew how to sell the thing that well. And even when I got into network marketing, I had a really strong close rate, but the answer was really never because I had that good of an opportunity. In fact, the opportunity I was promoting in my first network marketing company was not that desirable for the masses. The reputation of the company I was representing was so tarnished that when you bring that company name up, people wouldn't want anything to do with it. And we built the business old school, which is a whole other topic. But I had a really good close rate of my prospects even so. And the reason is because I listened to them. I asked really good questions, and eventually they wanted to go down the path that I was on because they felt that they knew me. That's the first thing, is building rapport. The second thing is leading them. So when you get to a point where they say, hey, so what's this about? Can you tell me about this? Or so how does this work? Or maybe they never get to that point and you have to lead them through it. Regardless, you get to the point where you transition in every conversation into business, right? Like we've all had that transition when you go from building rapport into business. When you make that transition, that's the part where you have to start leading them. So I'm always guiding the conversation, even from the beginning. Even with my questions, I always have a series of questions that I'm asking in order to get them to a certain conclusion. Now, I move away from more of a question-based approach to a more obvious leadership approach when we start talking about different aspects of the business. And I'm taking them through a few different things that I know that they're going to go through. So the only way that you know exactly what your prospects are going through is by talking to enough prospects. Then you know what's probably going on through their head, what's going on in their head, what's the biggest things that they're asking. So for instance, like one of the things that if I'm having a conversation with someone, I'm usually having a conversation with someone that's a very high level prospect. This person is already an accomplished network marketer, or at least they have experience in network marketing very heavily. They want to use our automated recruiting system, and they're looking at joining our team. Those are the kind of people that I would talk to. Now, if I'm having a conversation with one of them, I know what they're thinking. They're asking things in their head like, how long does it take to get set up? How much time do I have to put in once it's already built? What kind of return can I expect if I do everything properly? Is the course and guidance self-guided? Can I go as fast or slow as I want? Or is it like a set amount of time type of thing? These are the questions that they ask. And they're all asking that. So what I do is I'll lead them through those questions. I'll basically give my presentation and be like, so do you have any questions? They might bring up one of those, and I'll be like, great question, I'll answer it, and then I'll just flow into all those other 4 answers. And most likely by the end of that 4th answer, all of the big stuff in their head is done. I led them through that before they even knew that they needed it. Now I'll say again, does it all make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. Do you have any other questions? Not really right now. Okay, got it. This is what you do. Sounds good, man. So what are you thinking? Would you like to get started? And then shut up. That is leading them to where you need them to go. So if it seems like it's a good fit for them and all their questions are answered and there's no objections, you ask them if they want to get started. You lead that process. And it can be very low pressure. So would you like to get started? Don't say anything. Wait for their response. And they'll either say, yeah, or they'll ask an additional question that some people call an objection. They'll ask another question, or they'll give you an actual objection like, oh, I'd love to, but whatever. That's a whole other topic. Go down, scroll through the channel, and find the videos on handling objections where we talk about that. But that's how you lead someone through it. So don't let the thing die. All right. Now, I'm not saying silence is bad in a conversation. It's actually very powerful. Don't let the conversation come to a screeching halt where you don't know where you're going. Now, if you ever have any confusion as to where you're going is the close. Always. You're always going for the close. Now, this is where you're at now. This is the close. In between here is rapport building, presentations, questions, objections, and close. Now, clearly, I want to get to the close as fast as possible, so I know I need to go from rapport to presentation. I'm going straight to the close, or the questions, then the close. I'm going to skip objections, obviously, because I don't have objections on my own thing, but they might. So I'm never going to skip that process, though. I'm going to build rapport before I send the presentation. If I get on the phone with someone and the first thing they say is, send me the presentation, no, dude, I don't even know if this is right for you, man. Like, hey, tell me this, how long have you been in network marketing? Or tell me this, how long have you been working at your job? And I'm going to start that conversation at rapport building. If you try to skip to the end, so how much does it cost? Hold on, dude. First of all, we have multiple packages, so I don't know what's going to cost for you specifically, but I don't even know if this is right for you, dude. Tell me about, are you working right now? What are you doing? I'm pulling them back to rapport. And if they try to screw me up and skip ahead too many times, I'm going to stop and be like, hey, listen, I want to get to know you and find out if this is even the right fit for you before I start sending information out and stuff like that, okay? I'm trying to save my time and also save your time. So if you'd like to work through this process with me, I'd love to do that. But if not, it's all good, man. This probably isn't the right fit for you. And then I just stop them. I'm leading the process, not them. I've been through this process hundreds or thousands of times. They've been through it 0 times. And even if they've gone through the ringer before, they've probably gone through it maximum 5 times. And if they keep train rolling or running people over in their life, they probably have a habit of doing that and like not getting results with anything if they've done it that many times. Does that make sense? Because they keep going from thing to thing. So they're following my process or they're not going through the process, period. No one is breaking the process. I don't care who they are. I don't care if it's the biggest earner in the world saying they're going to bring their team over. I'm building rapport with you first, okay? We're going through the process. Now the presentation might look a little bit different. The rapport might look a little bit different. Their questions will look different, all that stuff. But they're going through the process. Does that make sense? So lead people through it. And if you are more of a person that doesn't like to put pressure on people, which I totally get it because I've definitely become that way, lead your conversation with questions, even in the leading process. So instead of saying, hey, I'm going to send you the presentation, why don't you take a look at it and call me back tomorrow at 5 p.m. That's very assumptive. I'm assuming that they want to take a look at the presentation. I'm also assuming that they're free tomorrow at 5 p.m. And I'm assuming that they want to follow up with me. Because there are a lot of stupid assumptions to make. So I want this to be their idea. So I'll say something maybe a little bit different, like, okay, so based on what you've told me so far, this does seem like it could be a good fit for you. And I don't know for sure. Kind of depends on a few different factors. But the next step is for me to send you some information that you can review on your own time and really get you a lot of the details. Now, once you review that, obviously the next step is to follow back up. But before we book that kind of stuff, is this something that you think you want to learn more about? Still the same result. They're going to say yes, most likely, if I've gotten that far. Same result, but how much better does that feel saying it and hearing it? Sounds way better, right? So lead with questions if you want to kind of like take the pressure down. And if you're a person that has a harsh personality type or a really type A personality, you really should probably do this, because while you might be able to force people into doing things for you, people aren't going to think it's their idea, and their confidence is actually going to dip because they think they have to be like some crazy type A person like you. This was my problem for years. I know what I'm talking about here. I'm a very type A person, and for the first 5-6 years, actually probably more like 4 or 5, first 4 or 5 years, I let that type A show. Hey, your type A is showing, bro. I let that show, and I would sponsor lots of people, and I would lead them with like a heavy hand, but no one could duplicate me because I all felt that they needed to be this silver-tongued, heavy-handed, like super type A person like I was in order to get any results. So what I did is I actually tamed down that part of my personality when talking to prospects and even leading the team so that people could actually relate to me, because not that many people relate to a super type A person. Same thing, not a lot of people relate to you if you're way too laid back, or if you're way too funny all the time, or if you are way too detail oriented. If you're a super intense legalistic engineer, you're not gonna get the super type A person that says, get out of my way and let me do this thing, unless you adapt to them. There's a book I want to recommend to you. It's called Wired That Way. It talks about the different personality types and how you can adapt to them. So it's really, really good. So anyway, one of the things that has made a huge difference in our business is actually not having to go through the prospecting process and sometimes even the enrollment process, yet still sponsoring more people in a week than some people will all year long. And we do that by deploying something that we built called an automated recruiting system, which does exactly what it sounds like it does. It brings in mass quantities of applicants and enrollments without us ever talking to anyone. Now you can learn how we do that and how you can actually do that for yourself if you want by going to the link below. It's mlmrebelsblueprint.com. Shows you our blueprint, our roadmap of exactly how we do that. This is how we spent 5 months in Bali and Thailand and Kuala Lumpur and things like that. Here, we're able to sponsor people back here in the States without ever speaking to them. So anyway, that's mlmrebelsblueprint.com if you want to learn more about that. And with that, guys, if you found value in this video, do me a favor, hit the like button, smash that subscribe button, leave a comment down below. And with that, we'll see you on the next video. Appreciate you watching. Talk to y'all soon.